Hi friends, in this video, let's talk about pasta. Which pasta is the healthiest? And it's not what you think. I reviewed several hundred pastas from 5 major supermarkets to help you find the healthiest pasta. I also reviewed the literature on how pastas are made to help you choose the best ingredients that will have the best effect on your metabolism and immunity. Today, we're going to talk about how to pick the healthiest pasta because organic, all-natural, gluten-free, high protein, and fresh isn't necessarily healthy. You're going to understand why labels can be deceptive. Will pasta raise your blood sugars? Are pastas even good for diabetics? How does the shape, the grain, or bean impact your health? These are all important questions that you should know if you eat pasta. And in the end, I'm going to share with you my favorite grain right here that they make pasta with because this has been eaten medicinally for its anti-inflammatory, antiviral properties, and it just so happens to have 25% less sugar than wheat. I will help answer these questions by explaining how the ingredients and the processing of pastas affect your metabolism and immunity in relation to your digestion and gut microbiome. And just to be clear, today's video is on pasta and not noodles, which will be a separate video. When I was researching to make this video, I realized there are thousands more noodles than there are pasta, and this video would be another hour longer. If you think that the term plant-based or fresh is healthy, think again. Honestly, I don't know why companies label processed foods with sugar and flour as plant-based. Where else are you going to get the carbohydrates from? Fungus? Fresh pasta also doesn't mean they start with healthy ingredients. How do you pick pasta? I used to just buy pasta shapes that my kids like. Elbow, shelled, and angel hair pasta was what they preferred. But they all liked macaroni and cheese, which costs $1 a box. And we're going to look into whether or not that is healthy a little later. Pasta originated from Italy and is traditionally made out of durum wheat. But that's no longer the case, as the shelves are lined now with other wheat flour, gluten-free, multigrain, high-protein, vegetable, and bean pastas. Really, many of them have no durum wheat. And to answer these questions, we're going to have to first look into wheat pastas. Now, when you look at the back of packages of wheat pastas, usually they have the term semolina or flour or the combination of both after the word wheat. Traditionally, semolina pasta is made from durum wheat, or the official name is Triticum turgidum variation durum. There are over 12,600 different types of wheat, and that can be separated into 6 major categories, and each has a different sugar and protein content. And all wheats are grains. They are high in protein, specifically glutens, gliadins, which can change the texture of wheat. These proteins, however, may not be the best for your health, and we're going to talk about that later as well. Now, semolina means coarsely ground flour, whereas the term flour means the grain is ground to a fine powder. And if you buy durum semolina, that pasta is specifically made from durum wheat kernels, which is the highest in protein and is coarsely ground. However, if it doesn't say durum, then you are probably buying a hard white wheat variety Triticum aestivium. And if you compare the same wheat grain, do you actually know which one is better for your health? Wheat semolina or wheat flour? And to best answer this question, it's helpful to understand digestion. As a general rule, the more you can make your body do the work of digestion when you eat, the better it is for your immunity and metabolism. Digestion starts in the mouth, but the bulk of the work is inside your body. The second important part of health is the rate of absorption. The slower the digestion, the slower the absorption, and the less shocking food is to your body. Eating is very stressful for your body, and there's a lot of behind-the-scene effort and energy to push that food through your long intestinal tract so that you can separate the poisons from the nutrients, and then to convert that food into chemical energy. And this is why when you're being chased by a lion or when you're sick, you lose your appetite. Your energy needs to be shunted away from your digestive tract to survive. In fact, when you have that kind of stress, like running long distances or having an infection, blood is literally shunted away from your digestive tract, which actually can compromise the tissue lining the gut. And this then leads to inflammation and potentially ulcers. So when you absorb nutrients, there's also another stress. And that stress is because the nutrients can change the thickness of your blood, which is not a good thing. In response, your body puts out signaling and transporting molecules to quickly prevent that blood from changing its consistency. So the faster you absorb your nutrient, the less time you give your body to prepare. And this is another reason why taking the time to chew your food and eating your food whole can help you lose weight and keep you metabolically healthy. If you think semolina is better, you would be correct. And this is because coarser grounds are slower to digest than powdery material, which is in flour. And you can actually measure this by its glycemic index, or how high your blood sugar will rise. Wheat semolina has a lower glycemic index than wheat flour. All foods that increase blood sugars have a glycemic index, and you can download apps or buy books such as a Calorie King to tell you this number in lots of different foods. But don't confuse low glycemic index foods as being healthy. Paper is literally low glycemic index. It's called cellulose, and companies are hiding it in processed plant-based foods. Obviously, you're not a termite and you're not going to thrive eating paper. Health is more than looking at your blood sugars. Wheat semolina pasta has a low glycemic index, which means your blood sugar will not go up a lot. And this is actually good if you're a diabetic. However, you can further reduce this glycemic index even more by refrigerating cooked pasta for 24 hours and then heat it up to eat. Refrigerated pastas can lower the blood sugar load by another 30 to 40%. How does this work? It's chemistry. Your kitchen is a chemistry lab, and when you add heat or cool foods, you actually change the chemistry of your food. You will notice refrigerated pasta is harder than warm pasta, and it's not simply because it is dehydrated. All wheat pastas have two types of carbohydrates, amylose and amylopectin. The reason why you need to know this is because of the different ratios of amylose and amylopectin determine the sugar content, cooking time, and texture of your pasta. Amylopectin is basically a chain of sugars that will raise your blood sugar, and we will go over which pastas have higher amylopectin later. And your body cannot digest amylose. And when you cool pasta, amylose binds with amylopectin, a process called retrogradation that prevents you from absorbing the sugar amylopectin. The new molecule is resistant starch, similar to what's in a green banana. Foods that are high in resistant starch do not raise your blood sugars as high because it acts more like fiber. Fiber feeds your microbiome to decrease inflammation by making molecules that are beneficial for your health. These foods are good for your metabolism and immunity. Isn't that cool? Now let's talk about inflammation. And a person who doesn't have diabetes and they eat a load of carbohydrates like soda or candy, their blood sugars will rise. And the difference between a person without diabetes or a person with prediabetes or one who has diabetes is the duration in which blood sugars remain elevated. When sugar enters your blood, it thickens your blood and it irritates your blood vessels and immune cells that travel in the blood, causing inflammation. This leads to atherosclerosis or hardening and narrowing of the arteries, which leads to high blood pressure, a lower immunity, heart disease, etc., etc. And I'm sure you've noticed that sugary water is sticky. If your metabolism is healthy, your pancreas will urgently release signaling molecules to pull that sugar out of your blood. And this is called insulin. Insulin is supposed to minimize that damage. But before you think sugar is evil, just know you need sugar to be alive. There are cells in your body that use only sugar as fuel. Those cells are your red blood cells, critical for you to deliver oxygen. There are also cells in your lens, as well as in the back of your retina, that require sugar for you to have eyesight. So even people on a ketogenic diet that eat absolutely zero carbohydrates have glucose in their bloodstream because their liver will always make it for them. But they do so by breaking down their muscles and from lactate. That's not how I want to get sugar in my body. Your pancreas is the only organ that makes insulin. This signaling hormone takes about 45 minutes after you eat to catch up to the sugar that you eat. And this is why we ask people with diabetes to check their blood sugar 2 hours after they eat unless they are pregnant. We want people who are pregnant to have even better blood sugar control, and they should check their sugars 1 hour after eating. But sugar is not the only component that changes the thickness of your blood. There are thousands of molecules, such as different proteins, different cholesterols, different hormones, as well as different blood cells that can change the density of your blood. All of them can affect how your blood flows. So what's the healthiest way to cook pasta? Just to be clear, eating pulverized foods like wheat flours, even semolina, is less healthy for your metabolism than eating a bowl of cooked whole wheat kernels. The original casein and fiber has phytonutrients like beta-carotene to protect your health. However, if you cook pasta, cook it until it's al dente, which means it's kind of chewy, like a bowl of whole wheat kernels. And by doing so, you further reduce its glycemic impact on your food compared to eating some mushy pastas that are super soft. When it comes to blood sugars, al dente durum wheat semolina is better than al dente durum wheat flour because remember, semolina will further slow down the absorption of the sugars due to its coarse size. But again, eating a bowl of whole wheat durum kernels is the healthiest, even though it doesn't taste the same. To be closer to what should be ideal, choose a whole wheat durum semolina pasta and cook it al dente. Whole wheat is healthier than other refined wheat semolina pastas and definitely healthier than flour pastas. Whole wheat, even when processed, has been shown to reduce cholesterol, reduce blood pressure, reduce blood sugar, as well as reduce weight as compared to eating refined wheat. First, to make the pasta, the natural structure of the wheat grain is destroyed. And then they threw out the protective nutrients like the bran and germ, which slows down digestion, reduces inflammation, and protects your DNA from mutations. And yes, you guessed it, those ingredients are the fiber and phytonutrients. Now, pasta, which looks nothing like the kernel, is a highly processed refined food, and you can upgrade your pasta by adding back the wheat germ and wheat bran. So why is pasta then a low glycemic index food? And this is because of how pasta is made. In order to make pasta, the refined grain is first cooked and then cooled and then dried. And remember how cooling decreases the sugar impact of carbohydrates by making resistant starch? Pasta, despite being processed, has more resistant starch than the original flour. And this is why when you make fresh pasta with semolina flour, or even worse, baking flour, or when you buy fresh semolina pasta, it will have a higher glycemic index. I know it tastes better and the texture is better, but many foods that taste better aren't necessarily healthy for us. A second reason why pasta has a lower glycemic index is because of the interactions of the proteins and carbohydrates. Unlike bread, where there are tiny bubbles of air, right? That's why it's fluffy. This air is trapped in between the protein and the carbohydrates so that when you eat it, you can digest it easier. But dried pasta, look how dense and compact this food is. It causes the proteins to encase the carbohydrates, and those proteins are protecting you from absorbing the sugars too rapidly. The production of pasta is also a lot of kneading, pressing, and squishing. And if you're not repetitively kneading your homemade pasta dough, you aren't creating this protective matrix. And if you're a baker, you know that as you knead and pound the dough, it gets harder and harder. And that's because you're getting all the air out. In addition, foods like pasta also delays the release of digestive enzymes like amylase, which then slows down the digestion in your body. Now let's talk about the healthiest shape of pasta. Did you know that by picking the right shape, you can reduce the glycemic index of your pasta even more? So pasta shapes that have more surface area, that are short and hollow, well, those are exposed to more digestive enzymes, and that will increase your absorption of the nutrients. So pasta shapes that trap more sauce basically trap more digestive enzymes and increase your rate of digestion. And so a small surface area like this round spaghetti noodle is more protective for your metabolism than, let's say, the linguine, and it's even more protective than the macaroni shape or the elbow shape because they're hollow pastas. They have even more surface area. How about color? Have you noticed that my pastas are kind of brown? So pastas come in whole different kinds of color. Sometimes they're yellow. That's beta carotene, a plant pigment found in orange colored foods like butternut squash. That's good for your health. Beta carotene is converted to vitamin A, a necessary vitamin for your immunity to fight viruses, have good vision, reproduce and have children, and to help your internal organs like your lung and your heart stay healthy. So stay away from the white pastas. They're missing essential nutrients like beta carotene. And the whole wheat pasta is brown because it has even more nutrients. It's more similar to the whole kernel. How about those red and green pastas? Should you buy those infused with vegetables? Well, the brilliant reds and greens in vegetables are from polyphenols, which are known to inhibit digestive enzymes. And this helps even more to slow down digestion so that you can slow down the calories that you get. That's another reason why to eat your vegetables first, or at least eat your vegetables with your carbohydrates. But just know that these vegetables may leach out in the water when you're cooking your pasta, but it still appears to be protective and effective at blocking the digestive enzymes to reduce the glycemic index. But if the company puts too much of the vegetable extract, it actually may reduce this effect, period, because the vegetable components may be interfering with how the proteins are interacting with the carbohydrates. But ultimately, the goal is to eat healthy foods and to get healthier, not to chase your blood sugars. So if this is the only way to eat your vegetables is to have it infused in your pasta, then you should eat more pastas. The more polyphenols you have, the more power you will give your body to reduce inflammation. But the key is to eat a variety of all natural pasta colors. Diversify your foods. So many people think gluten-free pastas are healthy, but gluten-free doesn't necessarily mean it's healthier except for people who have gluten allergens or sensitivities. Gluten is a protein found in wheat and barley and rye. And people with celiac disease or gluten sensitivity can have a myriad of GI symptoms when they eat gluten. These symptoms can include diarrhea, bloating, abdominal pain, and even constipation. Ironically, there are a lot of people who have actually celiac but actually have no symptoms. So of course, if you have any of these symptoms, go see a doctor. A simple blood test called tissue transglutaminase IgA antibody is actually quite sensitive to diagnose celiac disease. And if you have celiac, avoiding gluten products is critical because gluten will trigger chronic inflammation. People can also have allergies to other wheat proteins such as albumin, globulins, gliadins. Some people can get a rash called dermatitis herpetiformis from eating wheat. People with eczema and asthma are more prone to food allergies. In fact, oftentimes the allergy probably came first, causing then skin and respiratory conditions. And a daily food diary is super helpful if you want to figure out what your body can or cannot tolerate. Even if you don't have celiac or gluten sensitivities, you may want to consider incorporating some gluten-free days. It's been shown that people who choose to eat a gluten-free diet can actually reduce their risk of diabetes. And this is probably because they're more selective in what they eat, as most convenient junky grains are made out of wheat. Celiac and gluten-free sensitive folks really should stick to gluten-free pasta. And I was actually gluten-free for a number of years because I was struggling to control my allergies. And that's when I started reading food labels. There are a lot of gluten-free pastas made out of other gluten-free grains, and some even beans. Just know eating the wrong, gluten-free pastas made from corn, rice, and quinoa have been found to have a higher glycemic index than actually eaten wheat. It's probably due to its lower protein content. Let's talk now about the healthiest grain. The healthiest grain will be a whole grain, as eating whole grain foods can help you maintain a healthy weight because the whole grain can help you feel full, as a food structure and fiber increases satiety. In addition, the fiber adds bulk, helps you poop, lowers cholesterol, feeds your gut microbiome to make anti-inflammatory hormones, as well as short-chain fatty acids important for your brain. It also has B vitamins like thiamine to generate energy, minerals like magnesium to improve your glucose metabolism, and thousands of other unique anti-inflammatory polyphenols that reduce inflammation. So pastas are made out of different grains. It's not just wheat, corn, and rice. But my favorite gluten-free grain has 25% lower blood sugar response compared to wheat and is more anti-inflammatory nutrients. This grain is called sorghum. America is the #1 producer of sorghum, but we don't see much of it on the market except in gluten-free products. Sorghum has the lowest amount of digestible starch amongst all the edible grains. This translates into lower blood sugar levels. In addition, sorghum has been used in traditional medicine in developing countries to treat diseases due to its high content of antioxidants, polyphenols, and antiviral proteins. I personally eat red sorghum because I'm always looking for that all-natural, colorful food to eat. However, eating a variety of whole foods is really the key to health, and no single food has everything you need to survive and to thrive. In addition, all foods will accumulate toxins, be them plants or animals, and it is wise not to concentrate all your foods because you're then concentrating all your toxins. 90% of all the processed foods you see on the market, they're made of wheat. Americans are just simply overeating wheat. Diversify your pasta grains to make sure you're getting a variety of nutrients and not building up toxins. If you have to choose between a grain pasta or a pasta made out of bean, choose beans because beans have much more protective anti-inflammatory nutrients than grains. I know the texture probably isn't going to be the same. However, the health benefits are unmatchable. And eating enough beans will prevent elevated blood sugars even after eating that bean meal. This is known as a second meal effect. And whether you eat beans whole or you eat beans powdered like in pasta, the protective sugar effect is the same. However, eating whole beans can help to lower cholesterol unlike powdered beans used to make pasta. Milling probably loses a lot of its original healthy fibers. And just to make sure, don't eat raw beans. All beans need to be cooked. 1,000 people in 2006 in Japan learned the hard lesson when they sprinkled raw kidney bean powder on their rice. Like whole wheat, look for whole bean as you want the fiber and the phytonutrients, which are all lost in processing and extractions of single ingredients. If you have diabetes or you're just simply worried about your blood sugars, avoid rice, corn, quinoa pastas. They will raise your blood sugars more. And if you definitely want to avoid Kraft mac and cheese, which is made out of refined flour, don't let that label, no artificial preservatives, flavors, and dyes fool you. In addition to the flour, it's simply not the right shape. And worst of all, it has very little dietary fiber and contains phosphates that are highly inflammatory. High phosphate foods like in processed cheeses accelerate aging and increase the risk of kidney failure as well as heart attacks. And this is why it's good to stay away from processed cheeses. And remember, other pastas such as sorghum and bean base are better. And just simply eat a variety of different whole grains and whole beans. Beans are associated with longevity across the world. Stick to a solid, compact, round shape like spaghetti and avoid hollow, short pastas like the ones in Kraft mac and cheese. Now, what should you put on your pasta? That's a topic for the next video. See you there.